Hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Live action.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, and now Saucy Calf Traditional Native American Food, all located right here in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo historian himself, songwriting son of a gun too, Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Good to see you. Who are we talking to?
Hey, Cody boy, it's another great day in Osage, man. And Cody, we got a great guest today. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We got Tooter Waites with us today, and he's an NFR calf roper. He's two-time college calf roping champion, member of the Texas Rodeo Hall of Fame. He's Texas Circuit champion. He's the first guy to make the college, to go to the college national finals and the NFR the same year.
Roping son of a gun.
Sound like it. But anyway, we're going to he's a lot of fun, and we're going to have a good conversation with him. And Tutor, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all thinking about the old guy down here.
Well, you're not that old, but
not that young either.
Hey, first thing I got to ask you, how you got the name Tutor?
Well, I don't know. Toots Mansfield gave me that. He was raised right down the road from my mother and just figured it out from there on, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I thought it might be something different. But that's good.
No, I think it's just a toot, and I guess they say it's still there.
That's pretty cool.
Toots gave him the name. That's a good one right there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't rope too bad.
No, he roped pretty good. Huh?
No, he was a great guy.
Yeah. You say you knew him pretty well as a kid?
I didn't know him well, but I knew him after I got a little older.
Okay.
I always wanted to go to his school. You know, he was one of the first ones, I guess, to have a calf roping school.
Right.
And I wrote him a letter one time. I wanted to come and see how much it cost to come. That's when he was living in Big Spring then.
Right.
And he wrote me a letter back. I've still got that thing somewhere, but I couldn't afford to go. It lasted 30 days then. And I think Daddy needed us to work before 30 days was up.
Looks like he'd have gave you a discount if you're named after him.
Well, it looks like it. But maybe he did, and I still couldn't afford it. That very well could have happened.
Might have been. Where were you raised up?
Well, I was raised in Rock. I was born in Del Rio,
right,
on this side of the river,
right?
But I was raised in Rock Springs. My daddy had a mechanic shop there, and always had land, and had a ranch leased. And always had cattle and sheep and goats, and he made us think we was working all the time. I don't guess it hurt us, but we didn't do a lot of running around. I know that. Of course, most of them didn't then. But Rock Springs is kind of out there in West Texas too. Still got kid folks out there.
I thought he was talking about Rock Springs, Wyoming there for a second.
Right. No.
Yeah, that's out west too, isn't it?
Good people live there. Rough place to live.
Yeah, amen. It'd be a little chilly there for me.
Yeah, me too.
But we love Rock Springs. I went to school there. All of them. I had one brother, and we went to school there. In my senior year, Daddy bought a place at Lomita, south of Lampasas, and we moved up there. And that was kind of hard moving there. Just my senior year, but we liked it. I wish we still had the place. I'd still be there. But I graduated from high school there, and then went out to San Angelo to the college there. It used to be San Angelo College. Now it's Angelo State.
Okay. How'd you get the roping bug to begin with?
Well, everybody around Rock Springs, there wasn't a whole lot else to do. And I had an uncle that rodeoed, but he entered all 3 rough stock events, and he went all over the country, up into Canada and everything. And Mother and Daddy always told us we weren't going to be bull riders or bronc riders or anything like that. We wind up doing that a little bit. My brother rode bulls all the time. I wasn't quite tough enough to do that. But anyway, so I thought we needed to rope, and we had some friends there. Van Ivy roped really good way back there. Sam Shanklin, he's a lefty, and he's still at Rock Springs. He's older than me. But anyway, I just always thought if there's a chance I might rodeo, that's what it's going to have to be. And my uncle, he won quite a bit up there, and he and Winston Bruce and Casey Tibbs, those guys were big buddies. And he brought them down to our house, and we'd see them. And boy, I wanted to be just like them. I just couldn't enter the riding events. But my life's ambition was to just get to go rope at Calgary. And that was a long ways from our house in Rock Springs, so I didn't figure that ever happened. But finally did anyway. But
you won it. Didn't just rope there. You won it one time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I went there 3 or 4 times and won something every time. I guess I thought then that maybe those guys don't rope as good as they do down here. Yeah. But that was when they scored them out there a little further and roped Simmental calves. First time I ever saw a Simmental, and I started out not liking them very much. They were big old fat things. But it wasn't. It didn't pay quite as good then. I think I won $4,000 the year I won it, which was, I don't even remember what year it was, 71, 72, something like that. But it was fun. I liked Calgary. It was a different deal. The year I won it was the first year 1 million people came through their turnstiles for the rodeo.
Wow. Well, they had a jerk down rule back then too, didn't they?
Yes, they did. That thing cost me some money too. The first calf I ever roped there, they were walking fresh. They just walked out there a big old fat Holstein. Man, but when I roped him, he just run off and just jerked himself down so pretty. And I thought, well, man, I think they put 10 seconds on you then. And I thought, well, I got that. So I wasn't nervous or anything. I just tied him up and was 12 flat, I think, and won the go-round. And we finally got a picture of it, and the calf was kind of coming over on his side rather than straight over. When I roped him, I thought he creamed him head first. So went back to the next go-round, and boy, run him. I had another good calf and just busted his head, and was, I don't remember what, 11 or 12, something like that again. And I'd probably won something in that go-around, but they put 10 on me that time. So, and I was up first and last. And the last perf, the short go-around, was the next day. And I just took off since I was 21 or 22 on that calf. And after being 12 flat on that other one, we took off and went headed down to, I think, Ogden and Salt Lake, Utah. And when I got there, well, we got there and set up shop, set up our house and found a good tree to tie our horses under. And the short round was on Sunday the next day. Well, when all those guys got there, like on Monday morning and all, they asked me where I was the day before for the short round. And come to find out, I made the short round with that 10 on me. And I turned out, could have probably won maybe something else. But that's when I started thinking that maybe you ought to start tending a little better business after those things are over. So I took that off and paid a fine too.
You said you're setting up your house. What kind of camp would you set up at those rodeos?
You know, we were, if not one of the first to have a living quarters trailer. My brother-in-law was Sugar Grunwald, and he built lots of short shots and long shots. He was the first one to build a short shot trailer. Well, we got him to build us a little gooseneck trailer that was a 2-horse in the back, 2-horse side by side, and then had living quarters up front. My mother was redoing her kitchen in the house, and we took her carpenter out of there, her cabinet man out, and he built our little trailer. And it was all made out of steel. It wasn't like these nowadays, and had a 1/2-ton international pickup to pull that thing. My dad had an international dealership, and we took off, went all over the country. People up there in Calgary never saw anything. I remember one day they just opened up and walked in. They thought it was on display. They just come in, we was eating lunch. But we pulled that thing all over the country, up and down the hills. Those old international pickups, they would run just as fast up the hill as they would downhill. So, but a 1/2-ton, and golly, we pulled that thing several years, then sold it to a boy, and he pulled it a lot more years. Maybe it outlasted the ones they have nowadays. Wasn't quite as fancy though either.
Jimbo, one of my last years rodeoing, my wife, I just got married up here in Pawhuska, and my wife, we went and bought her a brand new car called a Chevy Traverse, and I traded for a little 1-horse short shot, and that's what I was rodeoing in. And right when I first moved up here, and it was an old one. And then I got broke around Cheyenne time, and the next year, and I was going to have to sell my little short shot to pay my fees up at Cheyenne. There's a guy from here in town. He said, "Yeah, I'll buy that old thing for $1,000. I said, "Okay, I could sure use it." He brought me $300, was going to pay me out.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
But I needed that money so bad, I took that $300. So.
Yeah, golly. Well, that wasn't that long ago, though. The fees were probably already pretty high then.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere I went,
I think the cheapest steer open back then was a little over $300, and that was a 2-header. So.
Oh, man. Dadgum. I couldn't rope steers because the fees were too high. Everywhere we went, the big rodeos, the fees were $100. And I know my daddy, he had always loaned me. He had a lucky $100 bill, and he'd enter me at jackpots and things. And I'd always ask to get that $100 bill back. And I guess it was lucky. I must have gotten it back. And one time I didn't have the money to enter San Antonio, and I entered with his $100 bill, and they write checks when they pay you then. I lost that $100 bill. I probably haven't won anything since.
Cowboys are very superstitious. You know, I've set a hat on my bed accidentally before and had to stomp the bad luck out of a brand new hat, but you got to do certain stuff like that.
You do. You don't dare, especially if you're a bull rider, you don't ride one in a yellow shirt.
And
you could get yourself hurt.
I tell you what, I got on a hot streak one time, started placing everywhere I went, and I was wearing the same jeans and shirt everywhere I went. I never washed them. I didn't want to wash that luck out of them, Jimbo.
I had a little Pearl Snap short sleeve shirt that I wanted roping on, and I wore it then from then on.
Cowboys, most cowboys I know, there's a handful of them out there that aren't very superstitious, but most of them, there's a little superstition that goes into trying to win sometimes.
Yeah,
you'll try
right.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen.
Well, you talked about going to Calgary and you broke the barrier. What about the time you won it? How'd that go? What do you remember about that?
I guess I drew 3 nice calves. I don't even remember what a tide I'm in, but it's faster than everybody else, I guess. But I remember you had to go down to get your bronze, and they gave bronze plaques that year. And it was different than the ones my uncle won there. But anyhow, they had horses for us to ride after the rodeo. We had to hang around after the rodeo, and they were going to introduce us and give us our plaques, and you had to just run the length of that big old long grandstand there. and they gave me this big old fat paint horse, and he just took off just like everybody. And I probably thought I could go a little faster than some of those bronc riders, you know. And old Paint wouldn't stop. We ran right by the stand where they where they were going to hand me that, and I finally got him shut down there. He thought maybe he's in the chuck wagon races or something. But I felt a little stupid there, but I swung him around. We finally got back there, and I got my plaque.
You was going to show them bronc riders how to ride a horse.
Yeah, I was going to show them how to gas it down through there.
Yeah.
I wasn't too bright.
I wonder, that wasn't the year they had the tame lion in the arena during the bull riding, was it?
No, I don't guess.
I've been trying to find somebody who was there. I saw some old footage from Calgary at one time, and the rodeo clown or bullfighter had a lion with a halter on just running around in the arena during the bull riding. So
Yeah.
that'll make a guy want to hang on a little tighter, I would think.
Yeah. And he was bothered
yeah,
the bull. He'd run up to the bulls, you know, and I know it's affecting the way the bulls
Yeah, you
turned.
saw it too, didn't you,
Yeah,
Jimbo?
I've seen it. It's the craziest video I've ever seen.
A real tame lion.
I never saw that.
Yeah.
I never hung around for the bull riding much. We always had to hook them, go somewhere else.
Well, my family, we always live by the motto, once they get too big to rope, we eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen.
Hey, I want
Still
to
do that.
I want to track back down to when you were a kid again, and your uncle was bringing them guys back to the house. What's do you have any memories of Casey Tibbs coming back and visiting you? Anything you can tell us about?
You know, I don't remember a whole lot about him coming. I remember him coming to the house. We weren't very old then, and I just lost that uncle. He was 91. About a year ago, a little over a year ago. But anyway, I went to some of those Ben Johnson celebrity ropings and cuttings and stuff way back there. And Casey came to those things, and I kind of got to know him through that. He was a neat guy. I mean, he always had some kind of story about my uncle to tell us. And I had 3 daughters, and I'd let them listen to him too. They thought they knew all those guys that came to those things. Wilford Brimley, they thought he was really their grandpa because he was a grandpa on TV.
Yeah.
But Casey was a neat guy. He's a sure enough cowboy, I'll tell you. Winston Bruce got to know him a little bit too. He was really my uncle's best buddy, and Winston, he had a lot to do with him getting that Stampede ranch and everything, I guess. And when I'd go up there to Calgary, I'd get to see him. And about a week before he died, I got a message from him on Facebook, and he was neat. I didn't even know he was sick, and then heard he had passed then. But those were just neat guys, and they were the real thing. Not a lot of that anymore. Looks like to me anyway.
What about your uncle? What was his name again? And kind of give us a little short history on him, because he sounds like we need to remember.
Yeah,
him.
he was a good one. Gene Graham was his name, and he roped good too, but he never could afford to have a horse or anything. That's what he always did. But he entered all 3 riding events, and I remember one year I forgot how many bulls he got on up there in Canada, but rode every one of them, 20 some odd, and we thought that was a lot. I guess it is a lot nowadays, but he rode 20 something of them and never fell off. And I know the times I rode bulls, I didn't get that far without falling off on my head a time or two. But he went to school. He was on the, I don't know, he was on the rodeo team at Texas Tech the first year that they won the national championship in the NRA. And I don't even know who was on his team back there. I'm sure some guys we've heard of somewhere, but he wound up teaching in college and at San Antonio College then, and they called it SAC. And he started a rodeo team there. And he was just a great guy. We always looked up to him, and he wound up ranching, and he had a son and a daughter, and we still keep up with them. their old cousins and their kids, you know. But we always, my brother and I, we wanted to be like Gene. He'd bring us those numbers from the rodeos. When he'd come home, he'd bring those numbers. And I remember when what made me really think a lot of Calgary then, their number was it covered your whole back. And he brought us one of those one time, and boy, that's it. I had to go to Calgary sometime. It was a long time before I got there, though. But we looked up to Gene our whole life till the day he passed. I'll tell you, he was a good one.
Sounds like it. Talk about your college days a little bit, Tutor. Who'd you go to?
Well,
you rodeo with any names we might recognize?
Well, Bobby Hungate and Rex Bland, Kent Youngblood, all those guys were. J.P. Smith. He's an old Okie now up in Comanche, but Bobby Hungate is still around. Terry wasn't on my team. I was a little behind those guys, and it's because when I lost my dad, I lost a couple of years there. I went and helped my mother get things straight with daddy's stuff, so that put me a little. I wound up being the oldest one on the team there for a while. But anyway, Hungate went to the NFR and the KF Open. Rex Bland, I think he made it in the Bulldogging and the KF Open. Randy Majors was over there all the time. He was a little squirrel, really. I think y'all know him probably.
Yeah, we did a podcast with him just recently.
That's what I thought. He's a jewel, though, I'll tell you. And Billy Albin was on the team. Everybody on the team had always done well. Robert Anderson rode bulls, and he lives in this Fort. Well, he lives over at Toledo, I think, and he is in this Fort Worth area. And around here, he waxed them in all the bull ridings for years. So we were supposed to win something when we went. And I never was on the national championship team, but the 4 years I went, I don't think we won less than third at the finals. But we didn't win first. They won first the year before when Randy and Johnny Kirk Edmondson. I told Jimbo that I had a stroke last summer, and now when I can't remember anything, I tell you, I had a stroke. That's why I tell my wife all the time that doesn't always work, but I darn sure don't have the memory I did have anyway. But Tarleton, I think they've turned out to be a pretty good rodeo school. They won it here it was this month, wasn't it? They won the men's team and runner up in the girls team up there. They've got a great program, great coaches and all that. Good people. It's just a really good place. And our rodeo team coach then was Carl Chumney, and all of us guys got to be Paul Bears in his funeral and everything a few years back. And he had a whole lot to do with me finishing college. I wasn't impressed with. I don't really know why now, but I wasn't impressed with college. I didn't like school of any sort. I've got a couple of grandkids the same way. That's okay, I guess. But anyway,
yeah, I didn't
yeah. But Mr. Chumney, he did a lot for us. And then when my oldest daughter went up there, she didn't rodeo or anything, but if she got in a mess up there at school, of course, my girls were a lot smarter than I was. But if she got in a mess at school, she checked on Mr. Chumney, and she had nothing to do with the rodeo team or anything. So he took care of her too, I'll tell you. And then I had twin daughters. One of them went to Sul Ross and one went to A&M. And we've since lost the little Aggie girl, but we still have her 4 kids. She had 4 kids, and she was 39 and had a brain aneurysm. So just like my first wife did that too. We were married nearly 44 years, and she had one and just went to sleep real fast too. And I'm married now too. I'm trying to change this college rodeo thing, but I got me a wife now, one that I guess I may have told Jimbo this. I was in love with her in our 20s. She was too pretty, but she had a husband and I had a wife, so I never mentioned it to anybody. But she lost her husband a couple of years before my wife dad, pretty much the same way. And we've gotten together, and she's the reason I'm still kicking. I'll guarantee you, she knew what the stroke was. I didn't, but she's been a blessing to me, and will be till I kick the bucket. I hope. I guess. I hope that.
Yeah, sure.
But college was. I really loved it. There were like the girls' rodeo team. They won it one of the years I was there with Angie Watts and Vicki Higgins and Connie Wilkinson and Sharon Youngblood. But we went up there. The first 4 years they had it at Bozeman, Montana. And boy, we had a good time with it. They had a log fence inside there where they played basketball. We were impressed with their arena and everything. So, but we got along good there. I won the calf roping a couple of times. They didn't have team roping then, and I was a Southwest regional director. So every year when we'd have those meetings, I would make the move that bring it up that we should have team roping, and maybe get rid of the ribbon roping. Because I ruined a good horse in that ribbon roping running back bob. I'll tell you. But anyway, the last year I was there, brought it up again, and it passed, and they've had team roping ever since. But I was done. I didn't get to enter them, but
right.
But it's worked out good. Looks like to me. Shoot. But we had a lot of fun. All 4 years they had it that I went to the finals. They were in Bozeman, and they were lots of fun. We just had a big time.
I'm curious how you balanced the time where you could go to the college finals and the NFR the same. I mean, were they just different times a year where you could qualify for the NFR and still do your college thing, or how did that work?
Yeah, the way I did it a couple of times,
mm-hmm.
and that was be real lucky at the buildings. and I was usually lucky at the big rodeos. I didn't go to quite as many rodeos as a lot of the guys would go to, but then I the big buildings, the majority were in Texas. Well, I could go to school and I was going to Tarleton right there in Stephenville. Well, that's not far from Fort Worth, not far from San Antonio. And you can drive fast and get to Houston pretty quick. And San Angelo, same way. And then all you had to do was the team had to qualify, or you had to place. I don't remember just what it took to place in, to make the finals in a single event. But the team always made it, so I got to go 4 times. If I couldn't do it on my own, they carried me.
Yeah.
Shoot. Oh, man. But I was talking about hating college and all that. Well, I liked it. I guess I didn't go to class a whole lot. I had to do a lot of double work. That's where Carl Chumney came in. But again, our coach, he saw to it that we some way passed. And so I guess I did it. Or he talked the profs out of it, one or the other.
Yeah. What was it like making that NFR? Was that a dream come true, or was it? Did you really realize it?
Certainly was.
Yeah.
I never really thought I would. I never gave it a second thought. Never thought there's a chance I could ever make it. But my daddy, I lost my daddy in 1971, and he was 52, and I was 25, and he had a heart attack and just fell over. He was working on a irrigation pump and just conked out right there. And he wanted me to go to the NFR so bad. He wanted me to rope. And if I was going to rope, I never liked to leave home a whole lot. I didn't like to go to a whole lot of these things. And he said, you just will stay home if you're going to stay home from the rodeos and not enter, you just will get a job. And so I didn't want any part of that. So by golly, I just, the year after Daddy died, then I thought, well, maybe I ought to see if I could make the finals. And right when the weekend Daddy died, I was at it wasn't really at a college rodeo. I was out there at Eastern New Mexico, but I was going to have to borrow the money to buy a horse. I found a horse I just had to have. A horse that came from Norman Gatlin over in East Texas, and he wanted $3,750 for it. Well, I didn't probably have the $50, much less the $3,700. But anyway, Daddy, he knew all those guys at the bank and all, and he told me I could just go to the bank and he'd tell them that I was going to come. And so when I got home from the rodeo was at Portales, New Mexico. They still have the same coach, I think, Albert Flynn. But anyway, when I got home, well, Daddy had died, and after we got his funeral over and everything, well, I was a little put out that I probably wasn't going to get to buy old Dunny because I wasn't going to have anybody to help me buy him. But anyway, I got brave enough that I went to the banker and told him what I was trying to do. He just sat there and listened, let me talk. He didn't try to help me like y'all are a little bit. He didn't try to help me a bit. And I just stuttered and stammered. But anyway, he pulled out a note, and I thought, man, I got lucky. And Daddy had already signed that note. He had already talked to him. And I guess I guess I was lucky enough he didn't have to help me pay the note off. But that was a great horse. It's still the fastest one I've ever been on. But that's the way I got him. Daddy signed the note before he died.
Wow.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good horse. Everybody rode him won something. Everybody won more than I did on him.
Cody, listen.
Phil Lyon.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just go tell Cody some of the ropers that you roped with in that first NFR. Phil Lyon, Barry Burke, Dean Oliver, Ronnie Sewall, Ernie Taylor, Gary Ledford, Kenny McLean.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about a tough bunch of ropers.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, all of those guys could flank a big one.
Yeah.
That Kenny McLean, I was always, I kind of wanted to be a roughie, but it was too big a chicken. Mm-hmm. But he could do both ends, I'll tell you. He is a great guy. And Phil, I'd known Phil for a long time. That he had ridden my horse. He won more on my horse than I did. But he did probably a lot of people's horses that way. Yeah. I think one year he won he won money on 47 different horses or something like that.
Right.
That's just crazy.
I still talk to that Yalu every now and then too.
Yeah.
He doesn't hear very good. He didn't hear good then. It's worse now. I hope he listens to
I bet he's still hog hunting, isn't he?
He's what? Oh, yeah.
He's still hunting them hogs.
Amen, for sure.
He likes that as good as roping, really, Jimbo.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you on some of those hunting shows on TV.
My dad used to travel with Phil here and there a little bit. I remember one time we were at Cheyenne, and we stayed with him at the Little America Hotel. We stayed in Phil's room. And I was just a little kid. Him and my dad went to the bar that night, though. I was standing there by myself. They went to the ballroom there at the Little America.
Oh, man. I remember the first year I went to Cheyenne, I had a job working for the highway department. And everybody said I married my wife just to get her dad had a couple of good horses. And they said I married her just to get old Grumpy. But and that's this old mare that bucked me off 14 times, I imagine. But anyway, we both quit our jobs. She is living with my brother-in-law and sister and her sister in San Antonio. That was Sugar Grunwald that built all those trailers for years. He built the Phil Line trailers when Phil was building trailers. But anyway, when we got married, we got us a room, and they wouldn't let you have a room at Little America but for 2 nights. And we were going to Cheyenne on our honeymoon and then rope up there and then come back home and get a job, And so we got rooms that let you have the room at Little America 2 nights, and then they could swap somebody else off. And the rooms were $16.48 a night. And my daddy could not believe that we would spend that much money just to sleep somewhere. and so when those 2 nights were up, we got rooms in a little rat hole place, and it was $16.48 a night, just like it was at Little America. And I guess Little America's probably still there, I guess, huh?
It's still there. I remember when I was a kid, hotel rooms in Cheyenne, Wyoming during the rodeo were $100 a night. No one could believe it. It was the highest hotel rooms in the world. And, now they're probably $300, $400, $500 a night.
Yeah.
You can't even get a room within 100 miles of Cheyenne during the rodeo.
Good grief. Well, I roped there back in the good old days because we didn't have any trouble. I got that $16 a night room. Daddy, I guess I was just spent $6 maybe. I don't know. I know I rodeoed a lot with Gary Ledford, and we stayed at the Motel 6 every time. It was, and that's when it was really $6. And if you wanted a TV, it cost 50 cents more. A lot of times Ledford wanted a dadgum TV too. We'd have to poof off 50 cents more too.
I mentioned Dean Oliver there a while ago. Tell us about Dean Oliver.
If there was a Superman, that was really him. I'll tell you what, this guy was something else. He'd run every morning, rodeoed out of a car, and it didn't bother him. But he was good friends with my brother-in-law Sugar too, and he always had a single axle 1-horse trailer, and he pulled it behind a Ford station wagon. And I don't know, I thought he was a cheapskate, wouldn't buy one of those big campers or something, but I stayed at his house a lot of times and played golf with him, and he could do that just as good as he could rope. And he made those big old wraps when he tied a calf, and these guys wouldn't think he was too tough. But I saw him run down the rope a lot, and I run down the rope a lot with him. That dude was fast. Now, I'll tell you, he could beat big end of the guys going back when I did then. But and I roped at his house a lot, and he never had a practice calf that weighed less than 300, I don't guess. He said if you could tie one of them down, you could win something when you go to the Rodeo. He didn't say the R real good, but if you went to the Rodeo, you'd have a good calf if you could tie those 300-pounders down.
Right.
He is a mess.
He was just a super athlete, wasn't he? Just could
oh
have
my
done
gosh.
anything.
Yeah. He had a green and a sand trap in his front yard, and I knocked the window out of his house. I didn't play as good as he did. But we stayed there several times. We'd hook our yellow 11 quarters trailer up under his trees there, and he had 80 acres, and it was just darn near in the middle of Boise, Idaho. But we had a lot of fun with him. That was a tough booger, I'll tell you. Great guy, and had to have the best wife in the world, I guess, Martha. And I haven't seen them in a long time. I've been thinking about calling. I don't know if they're both still alive, but I'm sure he is. I
know he is.
I need to check on that rascal, I guess.
What was his nickname, Jimbo? The Wope?
Wope.
The Wope, yep. He was a mess, I'll tell you. Great guy. Big time athlete. He could have done anything. I don't think he started roping until he was like 20 years old or something like that.
Right.
But he didn't have any trouble winning.
I saw some old film a while back on Facebook at Cheyenne, and they didn't give the names. They just some old film. And I was watching them, and here come this big, tall guy out with khaki-colored pants, and he got off the left, and he went under that rope so quick you didn't even see him go under it. I mean, it's unbelievable
he could get under that thing while it's still in the air. Oh,
yeah,
unreal.
It sure was.
he was a great athlete, and I guess he bulldog good too.
Yeah,
big and stout as he was, he didn't have an ounce of fat on him either.
Yeah, he was
not
a good
one ounce.
Yeah,
he was. He was a good guy. He was really nice to me and my family, I'll tell you.
Right.
Man, my oldest daughter liked him.
There's another guy I know, Jimbo. He didn't start roping until he was 20 years old, and he made the finals when he was 21. He never picked a rope up until he was 20 years old, and he made the finals when he was 21, old Junior Lewis out of Kansas.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a big guy, too.
Yeah.
I'll
I
be
used to
darned.
work for him.
Did you really?
I did. He had like a little processing yard there, and my mom worked for him full time, giving shots to cattle and stuff. And I'd go work on the days they needed an extra help loading the tub over there. I was the tub
I'll
loader,
be
kept him
darned.
punched up to him.
I went to one rodeo with Junior Lewis one time, and Kenny Patterson went with us. And we went from Sydney, Iowa, I think, over to, I'm not sure, it may have been, it was one of those little county fairs that went on the same time as Sydney, I guess, over there in Colorado. And Kenny Patterson went, well, Junior and Kenny, and then I got to stick my head through the crawl through in his camper. and boy, we got to and Kenny, boy, I loved Kenny Patterson, and he was a hand too, and still know his old fan, but it didn't bother him to drink a little bit every now and then, and he'd drink him a beer every little bit. He had some act down, he and Junior up there in the front, and I wasn't good enough to get to ride in the front, so I was just listening to him, and we got I'm pretty sure it was Yuma, Colorado. They had the grand entry. Well, Kenny was up in the slack afterward, and Junior and I were up during the rodeo. Well, Kenny was just standing there, and during the grand entry or after the grand entry, they had introductions, and they introduced the queen contestants, or maybe already one of the queens anyway. Well, when she ran by, Kenny roped her. He was just holding his rope, but he wasn't up. It was okay. He roped her, and her daddy came around there in a little bit and found Kenny, and he made Junior look like a little guy. And
no.
Kenny kind of was looking up to him, but Kenny wasn't scared of nothing. And Junior had to rescue him. I'll tell you, I didn't want to have anything to do. I didn't care if they killed him. I was going to stay out of the way. and Junior took care of him and got Kenny out of there. And Kenny roped that night, and he won the roping. Junior and I, we was just straight as we could be. We didn't win a dime. And Kenny won the roping.
He'd already practiced on that queen.
Yeah. I never looked at it that way. He had a practice run. I didn't need one like that, but that little girl's daddy didn't kill him.
Well, that is a cardinal sin in the roping pen or a rodeo to rope someone with your rope off of a horse. I mean, you don't do it. It's just something you don't do. And I don't blame that dad for getting mad. I mean, I did it when in junior rodeo or something, and I got my rear end wore out. But, there was always this old story. And I think it's true, of some kid doing it and then horse running off, getting scared, and them falling off their horse or something, and just dragging some little kid to death or a person. And it's just something you don't do. So I don't blame that dad for getting mad at old kid.
Yeah, that's probably right. But I love Kenny Patterson. I sung at his funeral. He was a piece of work. Oh, man.
I think he roped stairs too, didn't he?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I think he roped stairs.
I think he did. He could do anything he wanted to do.
I made the finals.
You know that you said you were working.
His dad. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, his dad rode cutting horses, and I thought a lot of him too. He won a ton riding cutting horses, and his sister Debbie won the world in the non-pro in the cutting. And I trained cutting horses for a long time too, but I miss the roping more than anything. I miss it all. When you get old, you miss it all. I guess it's okay. But his dad was a great guy too.
That time you went to Cheyenne and you had a job with the Texas Department of Transportation or something. How long did you keep that job?
It was over when I left up there. we went up there and I couldn't believe I went up there to rope those big old calves, and they had little bitty Herefords, little fat Herefords that their back legs didn't reach the front ones, and their mothers were at the far end. The calves came from the Wyoming Hereford ranch then, and I placed on my very first calf. I'll never forget. I was 14.8 and 1/5, and Jim Bob Altizer was 14.5 and 1/4 in the first go round. And they just walked out, and I had made my mind up. that I was going to go up there. I got off the right all the time, but if you really wanted to jerk one down, those guys said you had to just run the middle of them and get off the left, and just cream them. Really give your horse a little bit of help. Well, I decided I was going to go bust their head, and I did that first one. I was 14-8. Probably should have been. I probably should have set a record on this guy. I didn't mess him up, but he was just good, and I just tied him down, And 1/5, I don't know what it paid, but I knew I was getting it already. And then the second go round, I drew the calf that Jim Bob had, and gosh, he won 4th. I thought, shoot, I'm fixing to win this little roping. Not a problem. And that second go round, some of them would run. When they opened the gate and then they scored them 30 feet, this calf, I didn't see anything but dust when he crossed that score line. And I run this dude to the bucking chutes down there and roped him, and I forgot all about getting off the left and trying to get a go at one. I jumped off that right, and the calf was good then, and I tied him at 18-2. And I was just about to cry when I rode back down the arena, because I never heard of no 18-2 being any good anywhere. It wasn't any good at the jackpots and the little rodeos that I went to. And boy, everybody's patting me on the back. Nice run. I made a nice run, but I run him a half a mile. but when the short round, when it was all over and the short round started, I was winning second. And they had one calf that I remembered, number 28. I still remember him. They had him branded, and this calf is sick. I don't know how he lived that whole 10 days or a week, however long it was, to make it to the short round. And I drew 28. Well, I began to get nervous then. I thought, I do have a chance to win this thing. And in a little bit, they decided they were going to redraw the calves. There were 2 Clark Browns entered, and they brought the wrong one's calves back to the short round. Then they'd put they may still do it, but the calves that the guys that made the short round, you just draw out of the top 12 or 15, however many were in the short round, they drew out of those guys' calves, and that's supposedly the better calves in there. And so they decided they were going to redraw because they put the wrong Clark Brown's calves in there. Well, of course, I didn't get old 28 that second time. Jim Bob did, and he set the arena record on him that day too. But I drew a calf that Ernie Taylor had brought to the short round. He was 15 on him in the first go round, and Dean tied him in 30 something, 31 or 2, just almost got the whistle then. The whistle was 35 seconds then. And anyway, Dean nearly got it. And boy, I roped this calf. He didn't run all that hard. I caught him quick and roped him and strung him, and he kicked my first string off. But then, unlike they do nowadays too, you better have 2 strings on there. I wound up, I don't know what I tied him in, but I dropped from second to 4th or 5th or 6th. I don't know what I won, but I thought there'd never be another 4 day anyway. But and then they somewhere up there at Torrington, Wyoming, or somewhere, well, wherever it wasn't far from Cheyenne, and they had a big jackpot that night. They said they had them every year. They had a team roping and a calf roping. And boy, went to the calf roping. I won all 3 go rounds at the calf roping. And I remember that first week we were gone after I got married, I won $5,000, and I had never even heard of $5,000 before. So that's why I never did go back to work. I haven't been back yet to the highway department.
I had a feeling that's how that went, honestly, Jimbo.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing 2 years in a row. I fell on hard times over here, and I had to get a job at this Walmart distribution center. It's a low point in my life, honestly. You had to stand in line to clock in, and you had to stand in line to clock out. If you clocked in 1 minute early, you're in trouble. If you clocked in 1 minute late, you're in trouble. If you clocked out 1 minute early, you're in trouble. Clocked out 1 minute late, you're in trouble. So I was at San Antonio, and I done won me $5,000 or $6,000, and we got back home that night, and I was going to get up and go to work that next morning, and I didn't. I never went back to Walmart Distribution Center. And then the next year, I fell on
You
some
got
hard
even
times.
with them, huh?
And a friend of mine, Robert Frudge, he has a pipeline company, and it's in the middle of the winter. I went to El Dorado, Kansas, to the Frontier Holly refinery up there, and I was being a fire watch and building scaffold for these guys fixing the pipeline up there. And
Wow.
went to San Antonio again and won me another $5,000 or $6,000. I never went back to that job either.
Didn't show up at it. I'll be darned.
Yep.
Well, I was blessed. I didn't have to have a job for a long while. I probably should have had, but Daddy was still alive then, so that's okay. He didn't let us starve to death. We knew we'd buy a sack of beans anyhow. Jeez.
Jobs and rodeo just don't jive together for some reason.
No.
They really don't. I kind of wish I'd have thought a little different about that now. It's a little different now. If I'd have been a doctor or something, if I'd have been a doctor, I'd have saved myself a lot of money as many doctors as I see now. I'll tell you, gee whiz. But I got another story. It was talking about Dean Oliver nearly getting the whistle. That was when it was 35 seconds. I remember when I first got in, it was RCA, the whistle was 2 minutes. And I never saw anybody get 2 minutes, the 2 minute whistle. But one year at San Angelo, they used to rope the calves. They'd be fresh, I think, at Fort Worth. And then they'd take them and they'd kill you at Fort Worth. But then they'd take them to San Antonio, and then they'd take them to Houston. And they've been on full feed all this time. And they were getting a little salty now. And then they'd take them to San Angelo. That'd be the last one. And I remember, I still had old Grumpy from my father-in-law, and she was a good one too, though. But anyway, I missed the barrier a little bit. I was up during the rodeo one night. Slack was the next morning. You nearly always want to be up in the slack, but San Angelo, it didn't bother me. That was all the people that I knew. They didn't. That's West Texas country, and you were somebody if you could rope at San Angelo. Well, I drew this calf, and man, he nearly tore the chute up. I couldn't have ridden him if I'd had him in the bull riding. But anyway, I missed the barrier, and I roped him just before he hit the bucking chutes at the back end. And he never hit the end of the rope, but I jumped off the right just like I was going to be 7 right there at the rear, at the back end of the arena. And this calf ran back up the rope, and of course there was slack in the rope because I hadn't gotten there yet. And just tripped me, flipped me up in the air. And about the time I got up, he run by me again, tripped me again. And it took me and the two rodeo clowns, they were taking the ropes off, and untying calves. It took us that 2 minutes to get my rope back. And I mean, this calf was horrible. And I remember Gary Ledford, we were still buddies, And the next morning at the slack, we was sitting on the back of the box trying to learn how the big boys did it, Well, Gary already knew, I didn't. But Glenn Franklin drew this calf that I had the night before in the reruns, Well, I thought, I didn't think anything. This calf was trying to tear that chute up again. All I did is make him mad, I guess. And old Ledford looked at me. He said, "We're fixing to see a world's champion get eat up right here." And that's when he had old Red Light. And old Red Light, I think, just run out there and stop. And he got quite a bit better start than I did. He just knocked that barrier back and threw it. And old Red Light was already backing up, and that loop just peeled this calf's eyeballs back, when it went over his head. And just bounced that calf's head on the ground. And he was there when he got up, and he just threw him back down, strung him, and he used to step across that front leg when he got off the right, and he'd step with his left leg across that front leg to hold that front leg a little bit on a bad kid. And after I was 2 minutes on him the night before, I guess he thought he was bad. But he just flanked him and tied him. He was 10-1.
That made you feel good, didn't it?
Yeah, and Ledford, he looked at me, and I looked at him. He said, "I guess that's why he's the world's champion."
Yeah.
But that's my 2 minutes. I'm the only one I ever saw get that 2 minute whistle. And I mean, this calf was, I couldn't get away from him.
Wow.
Oh, shoot.
They had a whistle at New York when my grandfather was going. I think it was 3 minutes, and he said a lot of people would get the whistle up there.
Oh, man.
Those big calves.
Yeah. My father-in-law, he had some old pictures and stuff from New York, too. And he was a little short guy. He was the first calf I ever saw tie one under, or the first guy I ever saw tie one under 10.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't up there in New York and Boston and those. But they wrote big calves, and he had pictures of him legging them. Those guys don't have as many pictures. I wish they did. That's like my uncle. He said those pictures cost $1 back then. He said I couldn't afford those things. So he didn't have many riding pictures. He won a lot of money, but he didn't waste it on pictures. Oh, shoot.
Well, you got into cutting horses too, didn't you? Later on?
Yeah, I did. I was blessed. I wanted to do that so bad. I saw Buster Welch one time. We just went to the cutting fraternity to the finals, my wife and I. And I don't know how much money he won that night, but I knew I could use that. And that's when he showed little Peppy Sand Badger that night. And so I wound up thinking I could. Well, I worked for after a while, I got me a job training rope horses and stuff, and worked for Bobby Shelton. He was one of the heirs of the King Ranch, and by golly, he was in the cutting horses a little bit too, and so he sent me to some schools, and I got some pretty good training there, and then, but you know, he didn't have to afford somebody like me. He could get the real guys, the real trainers, to train his horses. So I wound up getting a job with the 9-Bar Ranch, and they were just starting. And Art Shahan, that worked for the Basses at San Jose Cattle Company, he got me on with John Kiker that ran that place up there, and I'll never get to repay him for all they did for us. But anyway, you know, that cutting horse deal, if you've got good horses and can kind of stay out of their way, they're not that hard to train. And by golly, they didn't buy any dinks. So I had a head start on them there. So I was really, really blessed to get to ride a bunch of good horses. And I miss that too. I can't afford to do that. The cow deal now, I don't know how those guys do it. Cattle are not that cheap right now. Jeez. But I enjoyed that. Showed a lot of horses. I got to show Leonard Milligan, and he was the first stallion to ever win the Super Horse Award at the AQHA World Show. Yeah, he was a pretty nice horse too.
Yeah.
I've been blessed a lot in this horse business.
What kind of guy was Buster Welch?
Oh, he was a good one. He read. I don't guess I've ever read a whole book, and I shouldn't say that because everybody needs to read the Bible, and I haven't read the whole Bible.
I only read one book myself, one cover to cover. Will Rogers, the Boy Roper.
Yeah. I'll be darned. I didn't like that. When we'd have to do book reports in school, I'd read the cover of that thing. It usually had some kind of summary or something of it. And I may not have made A's in English, but I passed. That's all I had to do. But, you know, I'm still working on the Bible. A guy ought to do that, I guess. But anyway.
Every book report I ever did was on Will Rogers, the Boy Roper. And then another book I read, most of it was Amarillo Slim, Memoirs of a Gambler. That's two books. I've almost read the Gambler one. I started it about 20 years ago. I'm almost through with it.
Hey.
And Will Rogers,
I bet Amarillo Slim. I'll be yeah, that would have been a good guy to meet, Will Rogers. Jeez.
Yeah, I still remember he roped the neighbor's turkey, broke its neck, and the guilt just sat on him so hard he had to go confess to roping the neighbor's turkey. So,
yeah, I'll be darned. I've done that too. I don't know if I ever broke one's neck, though. We used to get in trouble for that too. We roped mother's chickens and their turkeys, and we were a little bit rural, I guess, maybe.
You know, a few years ago, we had this goat roping deal that I was hauling around, Jimbo, trying to do anything to not get a job. And I decided we were going to have a chicken team roping here in town. I had it all. I had a special arena built for it out of like, it's chicken wire around it so they couldn't get through the fence. And then I bought me a bunch of chickens and everything. We tested it out. And of all things, listen to this. This is a true story. This organization called the Chicken Federation calls our Chamber of Commerce, and says, we hear you're going to have a chicken roping. We want you to stop it. And then, heck, they even called and left a message on our answering machine, the Chicken Federation. So we never had the chicken roping downtown during the street dance, but it was dang close. The Chicken Federation shut it down.
Wow.
That's good. I'm full of stories. I've got a chicken story too. Back when, in between ropings and rodeos, when I was kind of like you, I had to get a job and over at Alamo Village. This one lived in U Valley, and at Alamo Village they were filming Bandolero over there, and they needed some wranglers. Well, boy, me and a couple of my buddies, we took off over there. We're going to get us a big paying job. I don't remember what it paid, but I like $4 an hour or something. Well, we was going to get enough entry fees to go all year. We figured we'd do that. Well, by the time it got to us, they didn't need a whole lot of help left, but they needed a chicken wrangler. I can do that. I know about chickens. And so they had 12, I guess New Hampshire red chickens. That's pretty. Mother would have really wanted them. But anyway, I had to keep up with the chickens, but there wasn't but one scene. Well, there was more than one scene. I know they scattered them for me a lot. Every time they chase a bandit out of town, they always run through chickens. Well, my chickens were out there. Well, everybody was helping me gather my chickens after James Stewart and Dean Martin and them ran through my chickens after the hanging, or he beat them out of the hanging, I guess. But anyway, my chickens ran everywhere, and everybody helped me. But Raquel Welch was in this thing too, and right toward the end of it, and they were supposed to. I don't. You shouldn't say this, but there were the Mexicans that were after them and all. They were supposed to tear her shirt off or something. Well, they had to have those chickens back there too, and so everybody was up in front of this thing. Well, my chickens were kind of behind between buildings there, and I had to keep mine. I got me to put my chickens out there. I got me a little pile of rocks, and I was behind the thing where I could see. There was really no back end right there where I could see Raquel and all those guys when they started it. Well, I'd have to throw little rocks, just pitch them across there to keep my chickens. I had 50 pounds of corn out there where they'd stay right there, but if one of them would wander off, I'd throw one of my little old pebbles across there. And then a minute, Andrew McGonigal, I didn't know him from Adam, but he was a director, and I guess a famous one. And a minute, he said, what did they say, break, or something like that. Anyway, he said, who is the blankety blank throwing the rocks? And I was throwing those rocks right across the camera to keep my chickens where they was going. But I got to see Raquel up close, though, too. So I thought it was worth it. That's all right.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back and watch. What's the name of that movie?
Yeah. Bandolero.
Yeah,
they still show it sometimes.
Yeah, boy. She was the hottest thing going when I was a kid.
I'll tell you what, she had 3 doubles, and they were all as pretty as she was.
Wow.
And one of them could rope and do all kind of rope stuff. She was a hand. She's the one that got to ride the horses and stuff. Huh. But I remember Roy Engelmiller. Y'all know who Roy Engelmiller is, don't you?
Yeah, he's good.
Well, Roy,
him and my dad used to travel together. I think my dad traveled with all these old steer ropers.
Sound like it.
I'll be doing Roy. He is a knucklehead too. He's still a knucklehead. But anyway, he was in that movie, and there's a place or two in there where you can really see his face take up the whole screen. But he didn't have a talking part. They couldn't. They couldn't watch his mouth good enough.
Let's get Roy Engelmiller on the show. I think he'd be a good one.
He would be a good one. You talk about a storyteller now.
Yeah,
that cat. He's a mess. He's even younger than me.
You know, they used to have a little run of rodeos up there in Kansas during Dodge City and all those guys would come stay at our house for about a week and always had a great time.
Oh, I can imagine.
Roy and Tut and all of them, you know.
Yeah, I'll be dang.
My dad put on a Shetland pony team roping one time when they were he thought it was going to be a big deal. And all the steer ropers stuck around and they had a big Shetland pony team roping. And they were all drinking out of a keg of beer there at the end playing cards in our saddle house. And you know how in a keg of beer you kind of got to let it run for a minute. So they had an old black rubber bucket letting the foam run in it, and hell, there was cigarette butts and everything else in it. And when that keg of beer run out, they started drinking beer out of that old black bucket, just straight in the cigarette butts out.
They probably never knew it.
Yep. It's amazing some of the memories that stick with you from when you were a kid.
I imagine.
Yeah, I'm telling you, golly.
You got into the team roping, you told me later on.
Yeah.
Tutor. Tell us about that World Series team. You know, that's something that's really a big deal, and we don't ever hear about it. You know, they don't advertise to me.
Well, me and Jimbo, we don't go to team ropings.
Well, I know, but you don't see it talk about it on Facebook or anything, other than 2 years ago when Guy Allen won that big team roping, you know. That that made the news. But other than that, you don't ever. And they're roping for more money out there in Vegas than they do at the farms.
Yeah, it's a life-changing ropings, it looks like.
Yeah, I won more at those. I never won one of them, the big ones, but I could win second or third or down the line like that. And gosh, there's boys make a living just going to those things now. They win as much. Well, I guess not as much as the boys rodeo, and they don't win as much as they do now. But those boys just all of a sudden they win tons of money. These kids rodeoing nowadays. But these team ropings now they're good ones, and they pay lots more monies. You know, most of them will pay 20 monies. You know, just over the weekend. And if you can go and be consistent, you got to knock them all down. You can win a good bit of money. I roped with normal good grease, with I had a stroke. That'll tickle him to death. but for Pete's sake, that's aggravating.
Did you say Arnold Phelps?
Arnold.
Yeah.
Arnold Phelps. Anyway, that'll tickle him. I forgot his name.
Yeah, right.
But he's even younger than me, just a year though. But anyway, we roped together a good bit at those, and shoot, we did good. You rope with him, he's a winner. He is still a winner. It don't matter if he had to rope good to win it or not. He'll win something. But if he has to, he'll catch them. It don't matter which end he's roping. He's a mess. But we had fun doing that. Shoot.
Where do they have the roping?
He still does. What's that?
Where all do they have these ropings? Just all over the country?
Yeah, I guess they do have quite a few of them around here. They have some here in Fort Worth and Graham up there. They have good ones, Stephenville and Hamilton. But within 100 miles, we can go to one. We can go to 2 or 3 a weekend. And golly bum, you can fill your sack if you go catch them all. That was the trick, though.
Yeah.
You know, when we had Arnold Phelps on the podcast, I sure wish I would have asked him about his famous toothpick he leaves in his mouth when he ropes all the time, you know?
He does all the time. He's going to swallow that thing. It'll kill him one day. He's always got a toothpick in his mouth.
Hey, old Bill Holt used to rope with a lit cigarette in his mouth with a big old ash. I was afraid he was going to burn his eye out one day. You remember Bill Holt, Jimbo?
Yeah.
You probably don't know Bill Holt, but he was a wild man from up here in the Osage.
Kind of a local legend.
I'll be darned. Wow.
Yeah,
yeah, y'all got a lot of legends up there in the country where y'all are. Shoot.
Yeah.
They said
Kelly Corbin, he's kind of a legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
I sure think so.
Yeah.
I do too, for sure.
I talked to him a couple of days ago, told him we were going to do a podcast with you, and he said, ask him about that international pickup, but you brought it up, so I didn't have to.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be. Yeah, I love Kelly Corbin. Dixie, better probably. She had to be pretty tough, probably.
Yeah, probably did. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
He was a good roper for a long time, then he was a good judge for a long time.
Yeah.
Got a lot of respect
Yeah.
for Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You bet I do too. Man.
He calls me every now and then.
Yeah.
Set me straight on
Oh,
something.
heck.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
He'll keep you straight.
yeah. Shoot.
Tutor, if you was making a Mount Rushmore cab ropers, who would you put on it? Need 4 names.
Oh, my gosh. Well, Dean Oliver would have to go on it. And Toots Mansfield. Some of these guys nowadays wouldn't. You could put a whole bunch of guys on there.
Yeah, you can only do 4.
That's terrible.
I know.
You have to put Dean, and I used to always think that Glenn Franklin was the toughest guy. I guess that's because he won the go around on that kip. I got
Yeah.
to do that with my
Yeah, you got to put him on there. If he tied 110, you were 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I never got him tied down. I was 2 minutes just getting my rope off that sucker.
I bet he was
But-
hot and ready to get back on his horse by the time that 2 minutes was
Right.
over.
I'm telling you. But, oh, gosh. You should have given me a warning on this one. I'll hurt somebody's feelings.
No.
There's so many.
Well, I know. It's hard to leave them off, but you got to.
Yeah. Well, Dean Oliver has to be one of them. If he was fast. Even if he didn't look fast, he was smooth, I guess.
Right.
They always say smooth is fast.
Right.
And sure enough, he was. But Dean, and then Roy Cooper has to be on there.
Yeah.
And Cody Old has to be on there because he didn't care how big they were or how little they were.
He could beat
He
you on
could
the littlest
comment.
ones or the biggest ones. It didn't matter if it's
He
30-foot
sure-
score or 10-foot score.
He sure could have.
Best roper I've ever
And
seen.
best, yeah, I would say that too, probably. And this, gosh, there's a bunch of them. This little world's champion that we have now, he's young and all that. It's a different deal now, but Shad Mayfield may be a little bit like Cody. He's fast, but he can flank his horse if he has to.
Cody Old made the finals a couple times in the steer roping.
Yeah, he did.
Won Pendleton in the
He could
steer
just-
roping. I mean, this guy could
Yeah.
rope anything. It didn't matter what
Yeah,
it was, as long as it's in front of him.
Yeah, he heels really good too. I've roped with him a little at the World Series, and he still could do good at that. But he's got his life in order, I think, and he is doing good. He's a great dad, and training horses. I think he's found his lifetime deal now maybe. But this last guy on Mount Rushmore, dang, I don't know what. When little Ernie Taylor had old Scorpion, he could have been on there too.
There are a lot of guys.
Gee.
Barry Burke.
Barry Burke, yeah, I mean, he's like me. He didn't win a lot first, but he won a lot seconds, I'll tell you. Golly. It's like me. I wanted to win one of the buildings all the time. I won second at all of them, and I couldn't ever win one. But you got me stumped.
Well,
I'd have Dean, but there's so many that could go on there. Glenn Franklin could go on there too. It didn't matter how fast or how small they were.
I always tell
Yeah,
people it's Toots, Dean, Roy Cooper, and you can argue about that fourth one. That's my pat answer.
That's me. Then I'm gonna throw in with you.
What about today's rodeos? What do you think about the tournament style and all that stuff that's going on now?
Well, I wish I was young enough to rope in them now. It's a little easier to. You don't have to beat near as many guys at one time. That's for sure to win a good check.
Right.
We used to have to beat the whole batch. There was usually 200 or 300 entered. Well, shoot, that's not that easy. But I really can't hardly answer that. I know if I was, I liked it the way we had it, but I would sure rather rope in it nowadays. It's easier to make a living rodeoing now than it was back then, I think. I mean, there were guys that roped good when we roped, and there's guys that would have tied them fast. The calves, like I was jacking with Roy Cooper one time. I told him if they'd have roped these little calves back when I was roping, they never would have heard of him.
What was that about,
But
Anna?
that was a lie. But
Yeah.
but the tournament style deal, it fixes it where a lot of guys can win a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I guess it's good. Shoot.
Yeah. I was looking at, speaking of money, I was looking, when you won fourth at that 72 finals, I think it was, you placed in 4 go rounds and fourth in average, you won $1,929. And now in 2023, if you'd have done that, you'd have won $100,678.
Oh, dang. I was a little before my time, wasn't I?
I guess you just,
I remember that same year, if they'd have paid 6 monies, I'd have placed at 8 go rounds.
is that right?
Boy, yeah, but that's a pits.
Oh.
But that's like the year I won Calgary. They won 50 and 100,000 now, whatever it is now. I guess it's 50 now.
Right.
But I think I won 2,000 or 4,000 or something like that the year I won it. And I thought there'd never be another poor day.
Right. Of course, what people don't think about, that it was a lot cheaper to travel, and everything was so much cheaper back then. That money went a lot further
bet.
too.
You bet, it sure did. It sure did.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember my dad bought a brand new Ford pickup in 1967, give $2,700 for it.
I'll be darned.
I mean, and
Oh, you can't buy a set of tires for it now for that.
I know.
Oh, I know, golly. Yeah, things they're just, it's just out of sight. Life's out of sight nowadays, I think.
Right,
No.
right.
Uh,
What were the biggest calves you ever roped, Tutor? You remember?
It's the Velma picnic.
Oh, yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about that.
Yeah, I got run over there a few times. I guess probably that's it. They roped some. I remember one year at Great Falls, Montana, they had some big old tuss hogs that weighed. Oh, they were big. And I remember one year too at Denver. Well, at Odessa, they started out. They had a set of Herefords, and boy, they were big. I remember winning second. I was 12 and 16, and over a little short start as that. And I think Marvin Canfor won it, and he was probably the biggest guy entered. But anyway, I won second, was 12 and 16, and then they took them to Denver, and somebody told me, I guess I shouldn't say this, but the Serbies got fined for 50 calves being overweight out of that same herd of calves, and the weight limit then was 350.
Wow.
So there were some big old calves in there. But I won a bunch on those. They also brought some of those calves to Fort Worth that year too. And I placed at Fort Worth, I placed at Denver, and 1 second at Odessa on those things. So I like Herefords.
Yeah.
I always told everybody my favorite calf was about a 280-pound Hereford. Now it would be an 80-pound Hereford.
Yeah. Did you leg any calves, or did you flank them all?
Oh, I legged them. They didn't show us this deal. So first time I saw it, I thought they was bulldogging. The way these kids do it nowadays, they bulldog them down, nose them down, or whatever they call it now. But we always legged them.
Yeah.
Shoot, fire. And if you had a big one, I'll tell you, the first year at Clem's roping, the bushy head roping,
Yeah, right.
The first year he had them at Claremore, and invited 20 guys, and had 5 sets of calves. It was a 10-header, and had 5 sets of calves. And the last, or one of the pens of calves, were big dudes, and they were about as big as I ever roped. And they may have all been Herefords, but their big old legs you string wouldn't hardly go around them. Well, that was one of the best ropings I ever went to. They were, most everything was pretty hand picked, and gosh, it was good. And it paid $15,000 to win it. I mean, I didn't win it. Tom Ferguson won that first one, but I won second. And a one calf ducked back with me, and I hit him in the rear. But I chased him down and caught him.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was at that time, that was the world's richest calf roping, wasn't it?
It sure, yeah, that's what they called it. Sure was. It was a great roping. Gee whiz. And I got off the left a little bit there because you wanted most of them laying on the ground when you got to them. And I had a big old fat mare then that my brother-in-law had trained, and we wound up selling her for $15,000 to Dean Oliver a long time after that. And I think my brother-in-law, if I remember right, he gave 200 and something for her and trained her. He bought her young, and trained her. She may be the best one I ever rode. She was a good one, I'll tell you. Old Fat April.
Who had the best horse going down the road when you were going, in your opinion?
Oh, man. Well, you sure would have to say old Scorpion. He didn't have him when I first started roping, but he was darn sure one of the best. An old Alkali that Barry had, he rubbed the rope. He did a lot of stuff. But, boy, if you got a calf you can win on, that's what a good horse is. He lets you win. And Barry, he'd get your money. But old Bull Bar that Tim Prather had, he didn't have a tie down on him and just put a neck rope on him. He didn't use a tie down. And as far as solid and run across the line and do all that stuff, hold their head and all, he might have been it. There were lots of guys won a lot of money on him. Even I did. That's saying he'd have to be a good one. But that might have been one of the best. Shoot. There were lots of good horses,
sure.
though, even back then, just as they are nowadays. A little different kind of horse, but some of these boys got some good ones. Man, they cost more than ours. You couldn't buy one for $200 now.
Right.
That's pretty wild to see roping horses bringing $250,000, stuff like that.
You bet. It sure is. And then these boys, they keep them sound. They get their money back on them. Yeah, it's unreal. Shoot. And it's a good thing. I'm glad to see them win that kind of money on them. Shoot.
Yeah, I've been saying for a long time, your old horse in the trailer ought to be worth what the rig's worth,
Exactly. Yeah. I've hauled some that weren't worth as much as my beat up one horse trailer.
Yeah, I have to. We all have, I think.
But I have hauled some good ones too. Yeah, everybody's done that. But I've been blessed with some nice ones, I'll tell you. Just like I was in the cutting. You don't win in the cutting if you don't have a good one. Anymore, you don't beat them good roping if you don't have a good one. So everything's kind of relative, I guess.
And then there's some guys that can just win on anything. They could back an old donkey in the box and win on that son of a gun.
You bet. Yeah, if the calf stayed in the arena, they had a chance. Boy, I'll tell you. That Phil Line was one of them. He got on some that weren't that good.
JD8 is another one, too.
JD, I'll tell you what, I guess I'd tell that little sucker the same thing. When he decided he was going to train horses, I thought, well, he can't do that. He can rope, but he made a liar out of me. I'll tell you, that boy can train one, and he can make a donkey look like a good one. He can really, really rope.
He's on my Mount Rushmore of just pure ropers. He's one of my guys.
Yeah.
Not calf roping, not steer roping, not team roping, but
just roping.
Roping a bucket or whatever. Just roping something, he's literally one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Trevor would go in with that too. He
definitely
was a winner too, but it didn't matter what he was roping. He could rope it. If he was roping his left foot, Leo Camarillo could do that too. I saw him rope the left foot on just heeling steers. He said he's roped the left foot this time, and dang, he'd do it. Pot liquor. He rode my horses a little too. He was a good friend of mine, but he roped really good too. He bulldog good too. Shoot, there's a lot of good cowboys. Shoot, I hope some of these boys are sure enough cowboys too nowadays, but there sure are a bunch of them that rope good. I'll tell you, it's not a gimme when you back up in that box, regardless of what your name is anymore.
Well, it's a different day and age now. Even when I was a kid, there wasn't all these opportunities to rope. I mean, there's people that they travel across the United States every single week, taking their kids to these big jackpots and big junior rodeos and stuff like that. A lot of these kids are homeschooling, and this is what they're doing. And you can sure tell
they're giving them a chance. Yeah, you can sure tell it. You're right.
You know, the team roping and the calf roping for sure, and probably the barrel race, those 3 events. I mean, there's just so much talent out there, it seems like.
Oh, my gosh. I mean.
And we haven't seen anything yet, because I've seen some young kids coming up that are just doing some unbelievable things.
Yeah, that's right. Wait till John Bouch's little brother starts entering all the time, and it's getting close. He's kicking their rear already. Well, he started out at the college finals. He placed on every calf, I think, at the college finals on the average. But, you know, he's had a pretty good coach, too. You know, Joe Beaver, that's another one that you could put on Mount Rushmore. He could reach and rope one around the neck just like most guys could when they run right in the middle of them, right close. Well, Joe could always get a little slack and throw it up in there. And I always thought I could outrun him. I couldn't now. I don't know. He's got as many bad knees as I do. Anyway, he's always there when they get up, I'll tell you. And
hard man to beat.
Yeah, hard man to beat. He'll get you money. His mother saw to that. His dad did too, but his mother really did. Great guy. Joe Beaver has done a lot, just like Trevor, Larry Mahan. I think Larry Mahan probably did more for a rodeo than maybe anybody ever did. He just fit in. I'll tell you.
I like watching old Joe at the finals, and he says, you know, I ran into such and such in the elevator this morning. I said, won't you take your change out of your right pocket and put it in your left pocket, see how that does for you? And I'll be dang, he won the go-round tonight. He tries to take credit for everything. He's like, he sees everybody in the elevator, and he always gives them a pointer on how to handle their night.
Exactly right.
I love it.
Know, and that dude, he don't forget anybody's name. He hasn't had a stroke yet either, though. But you can meet him. He'll meet some kid a year or so ago, and he's liable to know that little dude when he sees him again. And he makes his deal work. I'll tell you, he's a good one. He's another one that has a really good wife. Most of these guys that do that, they've all had good wives back there.
Yeah,
and Jenna hadn't killed him yet, so she's good. Oh shoot, I love Joe. Shoot, there were lots of good ones. I got to know Larry Mahan more after we rodeoed. And you talk about a great guy. He was a good one. He rode cutters, and he learned about a horse, you know. And we had lots of fun. I talked to him till the day he died, and I didn't go to his service. And I guess I had a poor excuse, but he didn't want one. He didn't want to do all that, and I'm glad they did it. But for some reason, I couldn't go, and I still miss Mayhem, and he's been gone here, I guess, now too, probably. But he did a lot for rodeo. Yes, sir. You bet. Sure did. He is a monkey. Sharp guy. He read a whole book. He's like Buster Welch was talking about him a while ago. He read lots of whole books, unlike us.
You know, and that movie J.W. Coop, you know, J.W. has his little old cloth-made airplane, and then Larry Mahan, he comes and lands his, I don't even know what kind of airplane it is, fancy one, right behind the rodeo grounds, walks up there, gets on his bronc, gets back in his plane, and leaves.
Yeah, old Coop, he didn't have that opportunity, did he?
The cows ate all the cloth off his airplane, and
yeah, that's right.
He parked.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I had a story. Well, it wasn't like that with them, but I went with Frank Shepperson. Flew from Colorado Springs up to what went on during Colorado Springs? Deadwood, South Dakota was going on. I guess it was right after. Was Colorado Springs right during Cheyenne kind of too? Maybe at some time.
I think just before.
Yeah, maybe that's the way it was. Yeah. Anyway, I flew up there from Colorado Springs, and I was with Ronnie Seawalt and Tim Prather, and I had my mare, Old Grumpy, that everybody said I married my wife for. But anyway, Old Grumpy, she was kind of crazy about her ears, so I told Ronnie when he had ridden her the night before, but I already had her saddled and everything, and so I was up at that afternoon at Deadwood with Frank Shepperson. So we flew in Frank's. That's the only plane I ever flew in that had a tail wheel, and I didn't like that. I couldn't see anything but the sky when we took off. And anyway, when we got back, well, I told Ronnie to be sure, and when he put the bridle on her, to unbuckle it. Don't just put it over her head, because my father-in-law had blistered her ears, and she broke my glasses several times trying to get the bridle over her ears, old goofy hussy. But anyway, I told Ronnie to be sure and unbuckle that thing. Well, Frank and I, we flew up there to Deadwood and come back. I don't know if we won anything or caught one or anything, but when we got a taxi from the airport there in Colorado Springs, and we was pulling back into the rodeo grounds there, and there were 9 million people lined up getting in, and in a minute they just split when we were driving in there in that taxi. Well, I look, and here comes Old Grumpy running right through all those people. She was saddled up, no bridle on, no halter, no nothing. And here comes Tim just waddling. I don't know how far they had run, but Tim was already out there. He was chasing them. And I told that taxi driver, I said, you better let me out right here. And that worked good too, because Frank had to pay for the taxi. and so I went, and it wasn't easy. She wasn't easy for me to catch either. But we went back. I put my belt around her neck and carried her back. And old Ronnie was sitting. He had one of those Owen Gray inlines, and I don't know how come we just had Old Grumpy, but we did for some reason. And Ronnie was sitting on the fender of that trailer, and his lip was, his mouth was bleeding. She had busted his lip. He said he was going to have to string from the belt. He wasn't going to be able to put his string in his mouth. And anyway, he said he'd never get on her again. No way. He hated her guts. But I told him, but Tim told him too. He said he told you how to put the bridle on her. Well, he didn't do it right, but he went ahead and rode her that night, and he won the go-round that night. But he never got back on her again. And maybe Tim and I had to ride her, too. I don't know. She surely was the only one we had, or Ronnie wouldn't have ridden her. I don't know what we was doing, what the deal was with it, but that was a funny-looking thing when those people just split and Old Grumpy come running right up through the middle of them. Gosh almighty.
Yeah, that's a tale as old as time. There's always some little quirk you have to deal with on a good one, and you just got to put up with it. I had a good horse like that one time. I had to back him into the corner of a pen every time I put a bridle on him, because it was
you had to come out over you,
Western every time, no matter if I unhooked the bridle or tried to put it over his ears.
I'll be darned. Old Grumpy, she broke my glasses 15 times. But she was a good one, I'll tell you. But I'll tell you what, if you didn't warm her up, she'd get you. I won the first go-around at Burwell, Nebraska one time, and then it got cold for some reason up there. And the next day, it was cold and raining, and if it's raining, I was a young cowboy. I wasn't going to get really wet. So I didn't warm her up enough, and they scored them like 20 feet there at Burwell back then. And I come smoking out of there, had this nice calf, and she busted into. I never got a pitch at that calf. The clown, I don't know who the clown was. He come running out there. He said, "Let me have her. Let me have her." He wanted to use her in his act, I guess. I don't know what the deal was, but I didn't win. I won one go round at Burwell and probably had a chance to win them both.
You're up there at Burwell. If a steer or calf goes right any, they go right for a long time.
They can go all the way around the track. Yep. I got outrun to that thing one time, and the calf jumped over that thing. I wasn't riding Old Grumpy then, but I was going to just jump it. I thought, well, by then I'm not going to win anything anyway, And old Dunny, he just stopped when he got to that little rail, and I nearly went over the rail by myself with a rope in my hand. But we didn't win nothing at Burwell that year either. Jeez.
This has been a fun one.
Sure has.
Yeah, fun old days, I'll tell you.
Yep.
Well, Tutor, we appreciate you coming on today.
Well, I appreciate you thinking of me. I've enjoyed it. I thought of things that, even having a stroke, I hadn't thought of some of that stuff in a long time. Jeez.
I say it every time, but I think this is my new favorite podcast, Jimbo.
Yeah, I know it. It's been a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, geez.
We might have to put it on our Mount Rushmore podcast.
Yeah. When you ask, one of these days when they ask us our Mount Rushmore podcast, Tutor's will be on there.
Yeah.
I'd love to be.
There won't be, but there won't be but 3 guys on there. Then those first 3 I said.
Yeah, I think we've done Glenn Franklin, and we've done quite a few guys.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more than 4 on that podcast. I mean, on that Mount Rushmore this time. Well, they're doing another one of Chief. What Chief? They're putting a Chief on there somewhere.
Crazy Horse, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. They've been doing him for a long time, though.
Yeah, it's been going on, and you know the unique thing about that is no one even knows what Crazy Horse looked like. There's not a known picture of him. They're just guessing.
Yeah.
So
they're not going to miss it then, are they?
No.
Probably not. I'll be darned. Well, I have lots of crazy horses.
yeah, I have too.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think it's a great thing you're doing because it is so different now than the way it was back when I used to go. And a lot of the cause of that is because I've lived a lot longer than I thought I might. But it was good back then, and it's good now. It's hard to say you'd change it either way.
Things are changing fast. Cheyenne's only 20
they
foot
are.
score now, and they tie the calves before they rope them now, and they don't rope fresh ones anymore. And just things are changing. Things are changing.
Yeah,
and, to try to
they
benefit
sure
the
are.
cowboy, it seems like. So
Yeah, and I guess there's really nothing any more uneven than a bunch of fresh calves. They're allowed to do anything, but they sure were fun.
To me, that's what was so great about that roping, because it was anybody's roping. Anybody that pulled up and entered it is liable to win.
That's right. You may have never heard of him. He'll beat your rear there. All you had to have was a good one.
That's what made Cheyenne so great, I think, to most cowboys. It was anybody's game. Everyone always felt like, I got a chance to win this son of a gun every time they got there.
Yeah. Then they'll redraw them.
Yeah, then they'll take old number 28 from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I placed every other time that I ever went there. And the last time I went, I didn't place. So I know if I'll get guts enough to enter again, I'll probably win something because it's the other time.
Sure. It's that time.
I'm probably not going to do it. I'd like to go there and team rope, though. One more time. They didn't team rope when I went.
Right.
No, they just started that a few years ago. Actually, we were providing the steers when they first started team roping. Well, no, they roped muleys the first couple of years, but then...
Yeah, they did.
And then we were doing... we had the tripping steers, and they would... After the first round of the steer roping, they would team rope them.
I'll be darned.
Everything they were done with after the slap.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Yeah, it's still a great rodeo. It's quite a bit different than it was, but you can bet I'll watch it on the Cowboy Channel.
Me and my dad, we're going up there this year. We're going to check it out. We haven't been in, I don't know, it's been several years, probably 10 or 15 years since we've been, at least 10 or 15 years. So
I haven't been since I roped there. It's been more than 15 years. I know that.
I've never really felt the need to go since I haven't roped there, but they're putting my dad in the Hall of Fame up there this year, so we're going to.
Oh, that's great.
We're going to go out and check it out.
Well, he ought to be.
See how it's changed through the years.
Well, that rascal ought to be. That's good.
I had a lot of fun up there. That's all I remember. From the time I was a little kid, going to the carnival and the trade show, all the way to I was a grown roper going to the beer stands.
Cody, you should be in some kind of Hall of Fame up there.
Yeah, I told my dad, and actually he said I might have went in it before him if there was a beer drinking Hall of Fame up there at Cheyenne.
Yeah.
I'll be going. Oh, good grief. Yeah, that'd be fun. My oldest daughter, when she was little, you could see that carnival across from over there where all the wives sat. She always wanted to come out. As soon as I roped, she thought she could go to the carnew.
I made a beeline for the carnival by the
carnival.
time we got there every year.
Yeah, I've been to lots of carnivals, that's for sure.
And, you know, I was always infatuated with the guys that would be selling the knives. You know, they'd have a knife out and they'd be cutting a tomato up after they done cut a pop can in half, and they'd be like,
Yeah.
you can cut a tomato so thin, you can, one tomato will last you an entire year. So, I always love guys like that. They would be selling knives and fishing lures and chamois.
That's for sure.
Those chamois will soak up anything, Jimbo.
I know.
A whole 2-liter bottle of pop, a chamois will soak that up.
It sure will. I asked my wife if she had one. I couldn't clean the driver's side window on my pickup. I asked her a couple of days ago if she had a chamois, and she said, "What's a chamois?" She didn't have a chamois anyway. And then yesterday, talking about those tomatoes, I got my pocket knife out and I sliced me up a tomato for lunch, and we didn't have anything to eat. I ate crackers and cheese and a sliced tomato. But it was from the garden, not ours, but our neighbor has a good one. But anyway, I just busted that thing. I thought, man, I'm going to have to sharpen my knife. I squished it to slice it. But I got me a tomato anyway.
Sounds like a heck of a summertime lunch, really. A tomato, crackers, and cheese.
I ate tomatoes for lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing I can cook. That and bologna.
Yeah. I made lots of that cowboy round steak with the red paper on
Yes,
the edge.
sir.
Dog.
I
They used to
still
call it
yeah.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love bologna.
A good
Bologna,
cold bologna
there it
sandwich. There ain't nothing better.
Oh, nothing better.
Or a fried bologna sandwich or a smoked bologna sandwich.
You got fried bologna in the morning when Mother had the old skillet hot already with the eggs in it. I didn't eat eggs. I ate fried bologna. So
Well, I don't blame you.
it's still good.
If you don't think about what they make that old bologna out of, it always tastes good.
Yep.
Yeah, I know everything they can shovel up off the floor. I think.
I'd still rather eat bologna than sushi any day. I tell you that.
Oh, myself. Gee whiz. Oh, man.
I think we could talk to old Tutor for the rest of the day, Jimbo.
I know it. Be like one of them
I was worried.
podcasts.
I was worried about this, but I was mouthy enough. I made me some notes even, and I didn't even get to them all, and that's a good thing. We didn't even talk about Sonny Davis.
No.
Jeez.
What about Sonny? You got a good story on Sonny?
I do. When the old grumpy, that old man that bucked me off all that time, that Phil rode the most. Anyway, when I bought my old dun horse, well, I told Sonny about him. That's the one that was right after my daddy died, I guess. Then I still got to go ahead and buy that old dun horse. But I had not won anything at the buildings. And I was just talking to Sonny, and he'd been killing them, you know. And I said, I think I'm going to change horses and ride my new horse. And he said, no, don't do that. He said, you just got to stay at them if you don't win. If you're not drawing good calves, that's not the horse's fault. And so he kind of talked me into staying on old Grumpy. But Billy Albin, he was on our college rodeo team and all. And his dad owned Royal King. It was Randy Major's father-in-law. And Billy is Randy's brother-in-law then. Well, anyway, Billy, he didn't have anything to ride at San Angelo. So I told him he could ride Old Dunny. And Old Dunny, he is darn sure a good one, but I was going to ride Old Grumpy again because Sonny said don't change. And so I guess I ran my calf there and probably got ate up again on Old Grumpy. And then when it come around to Billy, he had a rerun. We was in the slack, you know. Well, I got Sonny. I'd been telling him about this new horse I had, you know. I got Sonny to stand there with me. We're going to watch him. And that Billy Albin, he could rope now. And anyway, he roped this calf 2 swings, and Sonny and I was almost in the way, you know, just watching. And that rope just cracked and just peeled this calf over backwards. and it broke 2 strands in the rope. And Billy run down there and tied him. I think the calf kicked or something. But I looked at Sonny. That horse worked perfect. And I asked Sonny. I said, "Well, do you like him?" And Sonny talked kind of high.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, I don't know. He can't even break a whole rope." Oh, so
yeah, he was a hero. He was one of my heroes when I was a kid, Sonny Davis.
Oh, I love Sonny Davis. He could tie a calf pretty fast too.
Yeah,
he wasn't a little bitty guy either.
And he could tie a steer almost as fast as he could tie a calf.
He sure could. Yeah, he is a jewel.
Yep.
All those guys went too soon. Dadgum. Man.
Billy Albin, he's still alive, isn't he?
Who?
Billy Albin.
Yeah, he is.
I think it's a pretty small world. I think we have some of his rawhide braiding for sale in here in the gallery.
Really?
Quirt.
Well, he's about as good as they come, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we got some Billy Albin rawhide for sale here.
I'll be doing. He's a hand, but boy, his rawhide is unreal. Yeah, he's a great guy, I'll tell you. And I junior rodeoed with all those guys too, and they've just been friends for a long time. Bobby Hungate, he and Hungate were real close, and Hungate now are too. I tried to call him yesterday, and I don't know, his son answered the phone on his phone. He said, "No, that old wore out sucker's in the truck behind me," and he said he didn't get in there with his phone. So I missed Hungate anyway. I didn't learn much anyway, so it didn't matter. Oh shoot. I miss all those guys though. I don't miss the traveling, but it'd be fun to go to another rodeo with those same guys. It's fun. The Facebook has done something there. I don't put a whole lot on Facebook. I'll put a smart remark or something, but I love putting what Ernie Taylor, he got bit by this thing, and it's fun to listen to. He and Roger, used to be Roger Forehand, Roger Fagan now. There's just a lot of those guys. All those bull riders are on it. Yeah. Randy's on it. I think he has a full-time job on
it acts like
Facebook.
Yeah.
Little sucker.
I did learn something from him. I did not know there was a bull riding ride-off for a world champion at the national finals. I didn't realize they loaded a 11th bull up in the chute, and him and Don Gay had a ride-off for a world championship. So that was something I learned from Randy.
They sure did. That's right. I'll be there. Thought you were talking about a ride-off for riding bulls. A tax write-off. Right. It ought to be.
Something.
Yeah. Donnie Gay, he was a jewel too. He did a lot for rodeo. He's still doing a lot for rodeo.
Yeah.
And he rode bulls pretty good. He can team rope. He's a jewel too. There's a lot of great guys. Just a bunch of good fellas back from my age. Some of them younger, but there were a bunch older. Not a whole bunch, but some. Oh, man.
He rodeoed in a great time. He had all those guys before him and then all those greats during his
bet.
Run.
You bet.
So,
yeah, it's just hard to make him fall off. I'll tell you. But he'll tell you Randy Majors is one of the toughest bull riders he ever saw. And he's just a little weasel. Oh, young. I hope he listens to this.
Yeah, we'll make sure he hears it. I'll tag him on it so he'll be sure and catch it.
Yeah, that's good. Shoot.
Well, Tutor, we appreciate you coming on, spending a little bit of your valuable time with us.
But yeah, my time's not as valuable as I used to think it was anyway. But I appreciate it, and I do think it's a great thing you're doing to kind of keep the old days, keep them rolling, keep them coming.
Yeah, we don't want people to forget about them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, come see us.
Don't have a stroke. I'm going to do it. I am coming up there.
You came and seen us one time, and you didn't come tap us on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I guess we were doing a podcast. You came through the museum.
Y'all were busy. I sure did. Sure did. They kind of had to kick me out. But we're coming back, I'll guarantee you.
Okay.
My wife likes the Pioneer Woman. So we'll be back. And Jimbo said yesterday he'd take us through another Hall of Fame, too, or not Hall of Fame, another museum,
Oh, yeah, that's a
and
good
then
one.
show us all through that one too.
Yep.
So we're gun ho. I already told her we're coming.
Okay. Well,
A
we
lot
look
of
forward
times
to
I
it.
don't get what's going to happen. A lot of times I tell her what we're going to do, and we don't do it.
Good, right.
Sometimes, but
She's on board with this one.
Yeah. If we're coming to see the Pioneer Woman, she's on board.
Yeah.
good enough, then that'll work.
Well, everybody else do like old Tutor here. Come up here to Pawhuska, check out the Ben Johnson Museum, check out our town. It's a great little town over there towards Bartlesville. There is another great museum, Woolaroc. That place is really, really something else. And Jimbo, he'll take you a tour through them all.
Yeah, I've gave a lot of tours of Woolaroc and the Ben Johnson Museum.
All right, Tutor, we're going to get off here. You have
Thank you, guys.
try to stay cool down there. It's going to be a hot one.
I'll do it. Hey, it's nice in here with this air conditioner running. Not bad.
Well, keep in touch, Tutor.
You
got
bet.
my
Thank
number.
you guys so much.
Yes,
you
sir.
bet. I do.
You have a
Thank
good
you
one.
all. Y'all too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was fun, Jimbo.
That was a good one.
He had so much. We could have talked to him for another
yeah.
hour or two, I feel like,
Yeah.
honestly. Maybe one of these days we'll have to call him back and
Get some other
go
stories.
through some of his notes
Yeah.
he had.
Right.
So
Yeah, he was a good one.
I really enjoyed that. So,
Yep.
hey, everybody, we'll see you next week for another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast. We'll see you later.
Later.